G'day, just fiddling with buttons here. It's Dave Pellowe and Pellowe Talk. Listen, yesterday in the Federal Parliament of the Commonwealth of Australia, George Christensen presented his Children Born Alive Protection Bill 2021, which seeks to treat children born prematurely as a result of an abortion the same as any other child born prematurely, where there's viability with life, consistency with life, where there's a chance for the baby to live, that baby should not be neglected and abused by neglect, but rather treated the same as any other child. So George is joining me now to let us know how it's gone, because it's been an idea that's gained a lot of support and a lot of criticism. George, welcome to Pellowe Talk Live.
Thanks very much, David. Good to be with you.
Now, tell us what happened yesterday. For those who aren't even familiar with the process and procedures, what went right, what went wrong? Was there much to go wrong yesterday?
Well, look, the only thing that could have went wrong is if I didn't turn up. So moving a bill into the House of Representatives of the Federal Parliament, isn't a very onerous task. You just simply need to get up and follow a bit of a script in terms of how you do the formalities of introducing that bill, and then speak to it. And I did speak to it. And I think if anyone heard that speech, they would have noted that what I was referring to in that speech was protecting the most vulnerable members of our society, how that bill seeks to do that. I talked about the implications of the bill, which would be protecting children who are born alive, children as a result of abortions, children who are viable or can survive, in ensuring that medical practitioners provide life-saving medical treatment and care in the event that a child is born alive that could survive as a result of an abortion. I did refute some of the myths being that this would require medical intervention for children that aren't viable. The bill explicitly says that it does not require that. In fact, one of the things the bill does stress is that in some instances, palliative care may be the treatment that is afforded to a child that's born alive as a result of abortion, simply because that child may not have a chance of surviving. So I also pointed to the constitutionality of the bill, as some are saying, oh, this is a state issue. Not so. The Human Rights Law Alliance got some expert constitutional law opinion or legal opinion for me, and that clearly says that there is no constitutional impediment to this bill going ahead, and that it would fall under the federal powers that we have listed in Section 51 of our Constitution.
Yeah, of course. That's actually something that's, I think, been discussed in other discussions at the moment. The fact that international treaties give the federal parliament powers to legislate in state matters, which would normally be state matters.
And the important thing, David, about introducing the bill, which I haven't said yet, is that before the bill was a concept, it was an idea that I was pushing. Even though that idea was in bill format, it was not official. Now it is official. It is officially a bill before the House of Representatives in the Federal Parliament, that at any time of its choosing, the government or indeed 76 members of the House of Representatives could bring on for a debate and for a vote. Now that's a big hurdle that we're yet to get over. It may be a near impossibility. Nothing's ever fully impossible, but a near impossibility. But we need to keep the pressure on to all members of the House of Representatives to get this bill debated and voted on.
So is this now stalled until 76 members say, hey, we want to at least debate this bill?
Yeah, so if you think about it, there's 151 members of Parliament. 76, I think it's 76, it must be 150 members, so 76 is an absolute majority. Effectively, it means that the government, or the bulk of government MPs, and or all of Labor and some of the government need to support the bill coming forward for a debate. So the reality is, in effect, what it means is that the government needs to support this bill coming on for a debate and a vote if it's going to proceed. And so that's why I think it's important for people to continue to lobby the Prime Minister, to continue to lobby the Health Minister, to continue to lobby their government House of Reps MPs, and indeed government senators that can all put pressure on the powers that be within the government to have this bill brought on for a vote and a debate. I'm not going to let it go. I'm going to continue to speak about it, on it, in the Parliament, outside the Parliament, and I hope that other people don't let it go either, because moving the bill, while it's taken a long time to get to this point, it actually isn't the end. It's just the beginning.
Now, what kind of numbers do you have already? Like, yeah, surely you must have a count, and maybe even a no?
No, I don't have a count. I haven't canvassed all of my colleagues on whether they support it or not. And look, that's for a reason. Dave, off air this morning, I said to you something like that there is really not a great deal of conscience votes that go on in the Parliament. And you have to understand that most members, even though they might support a position, consider themselves bound by some element of collegiality, and so they don't want to or can't go off the reservation and support something that the government's not going to support. And by the they might give it some sort of philosophical or ideological or verbal support, but at the end of the day, are they actually going to cross the floor and vote against their own government's position? That's hardly ever going to happen. But I can tell you that I do know of several members of Parliament, several senators, and a growing number of them that actually support this bill. I even know of some cabinet ministers that support this bill. And to be quite honest, the Deputy Prime Minister put his name he seconded my notice of intention to move this bill. So there you go.
Yeah. It's remarkable that this isn't a no-brainer for every member of the coalition, for every elected member, right of centre, who considers themselves liberal or conservative, in favour of human rights and justice, that they would seek to treat children born as a result of abortion unequally to any other child born in Australia. It just seems barbaric, and I think, frankly, I'm not opposed. I don't know if it's politically helpful for you, but for me as a commentator, I'm not opposed to naming and shaming those politicians who refuse to publicly support the Children Born Alive Protection Bill, because pressure needs to be brought to bear on politicians to represent conservative, Christian, good, settled values. And this is an international treaty that we're signatory to. It's really not hard to be concerned about this, and yet some people find it easy. George, speaking practically, I won't get you to comment on what I just rambled, but speaking practically, what can people do now? They've got your website here that they can sign up to, georgechristensen.com.au/bornalive. Head there and sign the petition. But after they've done that, what can they expect? What can they do?
Yeah, look, I'm looking at the Australian Christian Lobby, Family Voice Australia, indeed Cherish Life Queensland. They've all got their own campaigns. But look, definitely go to my page and sign up. There is a capacity there if you want to receive my newsletter, which might have updates about where we're going with this, to also sign up. I may devise some other way in which we can push this out even further, particularly to government members. So stay tuned for that. It'll be a work in progress. But look, it's as simple as picking up the phone, calling your local government, that is Liberal or National, federal member of Parliament or Senator, and saying that you want an appointment with them to discuss this matter. Sitting down and eyeballing them, that's the best way to go. If you are persistent, keep asking, you will get that appointment. So I encourage that. David, could I just say very quickly, though, I haven't gone to the nuts and bolts of the bill. It is up on that website if people want to read it, as you've said, georgechristensen.com.au/born alive. But essentially, as you've indicated, this is about getting international treaties. We've got one called the United Nations Convention on the Rights of a Child. Normally, these treaties are used to implement left-wing agendas. Well, here is a pro-life agenda that it can be used for, because in that Convention on the Rights of a Child, it says two things. Article 6 says that every child shall have the right to life, and Article 24 says that every child has the right to health care. And so those two elements are not being adhered to in our country, particularly when you have Queensland Health that has its clinical guidelines on the termination of pregnancy that state, in the event that a child is born alive as a result of an abortion, do not provide life-sustaining treatment, simply document the time and date of death. Now, that is systemic. That's not just something that the odd doctor here or there is doing. That shows that this problem is systemic, and we are not keeping in accord with the international obligations that we as a nation have signed up to. So using our external affairs power, this bill, the Human Rights Children Born Alive Protection Bill 2021, is seeking to rectify what is a very big problem, a life or death problem.
Yep. Yeah. George, thank you very much. Is there anything else last you say before I wrap it up?
Simply to say I've suffered once again the slings and arrows of the outrageous fake news media on this bill, accusing me of all sorts of things, interfering with a woman's uterus or ovaries, wanting to tell women what to do with their own body. The fact is, the child born as a result of abortion is outside of the body, outside of the uterus. It's got nothing to do with the woman's ovaries anymore. And they've also said that this would be a fruitless exercise in keeping a child that is going to die anyway alive. And again, Section 9 of my bill, if people are willing to read it, shows that is an absolute and utter lie. There is no genuine opposition to this bill unless someone wants to come forward and just say, well, look, it's a child born alive as a result of an abortion. Because it was born as a result of an abortion, it should be left to die. That's the only argument that you can have in favour of not putting this bill forward, really. Yep.
Thank you for your brave work. You know, you have many supporters, applauders for this work. We, again, for the record, we appreciate your voice and witness to life in our parliament. Thank you.
Thanks very much, David. Thank you to all your listeners.
Well, that's George Christensen MP, member for Dawson, who's indicated he's not going to be returning to Parliament in the next term. Let me add my comments to this. It's very important you know and tell everyone where your Member of Parliament stands. Go and campaign to them directly. Go and ask them personally, face to face, whether or not they would please fight for this bill. And then let us know. We need to really name and shame those politicians, especially right of centre, who will not defend the right of a born child to equal treatment, regardless of whether they were intended for abortion or not. This is very, very simple. We're not asking for extraordinary measures on children whose health is incompatible for life. We're just asking for equal treatment, regardless of whether or not their parents wanted them dead an hour ago. And this is very, very simple. This is not something any Christian, any conservative, any right of centre person should be opposing. Put your comments beneath this video on what your local MP and senator says about this, and let's pressure them so that we can get 76 members to support this bill and make it not just a start, but a finish. This is Dave Pellowe from Pellowe Talk, and thanking you very much for your part in making Australia a safe place for children.